So I'm very excited about my next guest, who's been coming on almost every month, and she's terrific, Mary O'Sullivan. And Mary O'Sullivan is the owner of Encore Executive and Professional Coaching, and this half hour is brought to you by Encore Executive and Professional Coaching. And Mary talks about so many things in terms of coaching and helping people, improve their lives, personally and professionally, but often professionally as well. Welcome, Mary.
Thank you, Patricia.
You know what's so funny is that we talked about what Mary wanted to talk about today, and she did not know that the guests we just had on from Coasters and Castles Travel, Inc., and they were talking about Disney Vacation. She didn't know that, and what we're talking about with Mary is why it's so important to take vacations.
Right. So the reason I thought this would be a really good topic is because it's summertime. And as you know, there are a lot of other countries in the world, particularly in Europe and all over South America, that basically shut down for a month every year. And I remember working for a big company, a big corporation that, of course, in the United States, we don't have any such thing as a big shutdown. And there was so much frustration trying to deal with companies that had their headquarters in France or Spain because they just weren't there. And if you wanted to get something done, you had to really work around their schedule. And it was very frustrating for the Americans because Americans traditionally do not use their vacation time.
So why is that, Mary?
There's a lot of reasons behind it. One of the things I came across in looking through this topic was that apparently Americans would value money over time. Now, I believe...
Is that a surprise?
Well, that's beginning to change with the new generation coming in.
Yes.
The
Xers
and the millennials really valued their time.
Absolutely.
But as you know, the hardworking, nose to the grindstone baby boomers just don't get that part because
their parents were depression babies.
Well, not only that, but what's happening now is people are in debt. I think your earlier guest was talking about refinancing and trying to stay in your home. Well, people have become so over their heads with debt and credit card debt and mortgage debt and a big house, big car. They have to get the money somewhere, and raises aren't like they used to be. A good raise is now 3%, not 5% like it was in the 80s, where everybody got at least 5%. That doesn't happen anymore. So now people would rather take that vacation pay than actually take the time off. And that's very typical American thinking right now. It's very prevalent. So what happens is that people's health begins to decline. And the other times I've been here, I've spoken a lot about self-care and your own personal mental and physical health and how that's important, your inner core, in order to make progress in your career and your life.
Mary, I want to ask you, when you have clients come to you for coaching, what are some of the typical issues that you're dealing with? I want to see how this ties into what you just said.
Right. Well, the typical issues are that they're extremely overstressed. They are not coping well in their work environment. They have not properly read the signals because they don't want to read the signals that there's a change and that the handwriting's on the wall for
the company.
Right. For either a layoff or a new management that just you're not in step with. They don't get that part because they want to shut off the reality because the what ifs are very scary. What if I lose my job? I can't pay the mortgage. I can't fund my college.
So I'm just going to work harder.
So I'm just going to, put the blinders on and keep going.
And you would say to somebody in that situation that may see the handwriting on the wall, you would say...
Well, my recommendation, if they're aware enough to see the handwriting on the wall, is try to make the best out of that situation. If you know that there are layoffs coming, don't just blindly go along your merry way because you want to control that situation. So I recommend that people try to find a champion someplace in the company. There usually is somebody who really likes you, who's taken you under their wing, who'll who'll give you signals and say, okay, here's what I recommend that you do. And in 9 times out of 10, the best thing to do is to try to get a voluntary layoff where you can control the situation and you can also control what happens to you in the interim. There are no surprises, because even if you're laid off and you get a severance package and you get some benefits, the shock of being let go, of being called into somebody's office and told, today's your last day, turn in your badge, that's absolutely devastating to people.
It's the end of a relationship. It's a
Exactly.
breakup.
It's
really
a
breakup.
It's a huge loss, Patricia.
Yeah, of course.
And people go through the grieving process.
Yeah,
So that's why I recommend a lot of taking care of yourself, yoga, meditation, all those things that sound so corny and so trite, but they really work if you try it.
So when your clients come to you, you do executive coaching, not
Right.
just for executives, but
Right.
folks come to you and you work with them for an hour at a time?
Right. Usually I offer a package of 10 sessions, and they're 1 hour. It's a 10-week intensive. And then I also have a 6-month program and a year-long program. But my initial intake, after they get their 20-minute complimentary consultation, my initial intake is really kind of a low-cost 2-hour intense session. And in that session, we basically figure out if you're ready to be coached or not, because I don't want to push someone into a coaching relationship that isn't willing to make the commitment to coaching and to do the work.
And this is not therapy.
Absolutely not therapy at all. We work on solutions
To what's going on right now.
to what is your issue of right now. Okay, we do some deep work into your basic belief structure, your belief system. But I don't want to go there unless somebody's ready to do that, because, as I said, it does take a commitment. It takes a time commitment. It's a money commitment. And it's the commitment to do the things that you say you want to do.
All right, let's look at this belief for a minute. Give us a belief that one of your clients might have and how that is impeding their progress, and then how you might help them to look at that belief and change it.
Right. So that's where the hard work comes in, Patricia. It's a very good question. So I have a client right now that believes that she should be taken care of, bottom line.
Okay.
And that came after probably 6 or 7 sessions with this particular client.
And what's happening?
So what happens is that she has expectations in her workplace that she's going to be taken care of. So
she's not going to look at making a preemptive move.
Right. She believes deeply that if she brings a problem to the attention of management, that they're going to respond in a way that she expects, which is really not true. That's a fantasy, right? No, that's never going to happen, because management is going to look at a problem, even if you're absolutely correct. They're going to look at a problem from their perspective.
And how it affects their company and their bottom line.
Well, first of all, what's in their own best interest? What is in the company's best interest? And you're exactly right. What's in the best interest of the bottom line of the company? But managers are not looking out specifically for employees' best interest in general.
So she thinks that she can walk in and share exactly what she wants to, and that it will go her way, that they will listen.
Yes, that's
And
exactly
is she finding
right.
that's happening, or she's finding a block? It's not happening.
No, it's not happening.
And she can't understand it.
She's grappling with that right
Got it.
now.
We're talking about how coaching can help you reduce stress, save time and money, improve your health and your well-being. And so, another one I think, too, is, sometimes there are beliefs around money, for example.
Yes.
The belief that, well, if I'm not doing well financially, then I'm not as good a person.
Mm-hmm.
Right? That could be one belief. Another person, I'm thinking of all different kinds of beliefs. Well, if I'm alone and I'm not with a partner, then there's something wrong with me.
Right. Exactly.
And then what happens is things play out in your life so
Right.
that you can't enjoy your life as much, or you make a choice based on that, and it may not be the right choice. So you might pick the wrong partner, right? Because you don't want to be alone, and now you're in a couple.
Well, what happens is that your belief system will direct your behavior.
Right.
So that's why I try to get into the belief system of my clients. And as I said, it doesn't happen overnight. That's why I have these long sessions with people to make sure they're ready to be coached and to be challenged on that level. Because if I tell you that your belief system is really baseless, that may get you upset. And you have to learn to live with whatever the feedback is that you're getting. I also have a good example that I did some reading on, and it was about a young guy who was looking for a girlfriend. But what he did every night was to reduce his stress. He would come home and drink beer and watch TV. Well, he felt very relaxed after that. But if you spend 5 hours or whatever number of hours a night, 7 nights a week, drinking beer and watching television, what are your chances of finding a girlfriend? Not going to happen. So I would have to challenge his belief system, his behavior first, and then get into the belief system of, do you really need beer and TV to relax?
Yeah. So, in other words, what you're saying here is that any behavior that anybody exhibits, there's a reason and a belief behind that behavior, or they wouldn't do it.
That's exactly right. The belief drives the behavior.
Right. And so if you're at conflict with your behavior, then you're going to have to change your belief. Correct?
If your behavior is bringing you consequences that you do not want,
right,
or that you do not understand, then we get into what is your belief about that.
That's making you
and what's
keep that
driving that, right.
This program is brought to you by Encore Executive and Professional Coaching, and the owner of Encore Executive Professional Coaching is Mary O'Sullivan. And she comes on almost every month, and she's just a terrific guest, and she can really help you. I mean, we're really talking about coaching and what it is. And as you're explaining, Mary, coaching is about looking at people's behavior, and if they're not getting the results they want, you find out what the belief is, because the behavior doesn't change if the belief doesn't change.
Exactly.
Right. Okay. And the belief drives that behavior. Any questions about work? Any questions about your personal or professional life? Now, I know you have an offer for our listeners, so tell us what that is.
Yes. I have an offer that is a standing offer for all of Patricia's listeners, and that's a 20-minute complimentary consultation that can be done over the phone or in person if you don't mind coming into my office. And I know most Rhode Islanders want to meet me in person, so that's fine. My phone number, if you want to give me a call and get an appointment, is 401-742-1965, and I'll be happy to work you into my schedule.
All right. And again, and then that's how long is that consultation?
That's a
again?
20-minute complimentary consultation. If people want to go further, then we have a 2-hour block, which I would ask people to block off in their schedules. Mm-hmm. Let me know when that is. I have certain times put aside for that. That is a different price range, however, a low entry point. And then we're going to determine from there whether or not that you want to continue with coaching, if coaching is right for you, if you're ready to take the challenges that are part of working with an executive coach. And the reason I call myself an executive coach is because I do have a graduate certificate in executive and professional coaching from the University of Texas at Dallas. It was a year-long intensive program. But truthfully, none of that matters if you can't coach well.
Well, that's true, but it is a very high standard being an ICF coach.
Very high standard being an ICF coach. It was not that easy to get. It was a lot of work and a lot of practice.
So, that's a designation that a lot of coaches don't have. And that's
exactly.
One I know you've worked very hard for. How can people find you, Mary?
They can find me on my website. It's www.encoreexecutivecoaching.com.
Okay.
I'm also on Facebook at Executive Coaching. You'll just do that little search that they have at the top of the page, and you'll find me. I'm on Twitter at GPSU Coach.
And let's tell people, if you have a question for Mary, because we have about 8 minutes left, so you have a question for Mary after the show, and I'll give you the number here. But like her go to Twitter, and you can give her the question, and she'll answer you.
Right. You can answer my question, or ask your questions.
Yeah.
Sorry. I can answer it also on Twitter. It's at GPS Coach. That's
at
it.
GPS Coach.
At GPS Coach, right.
Okay. All right. You can do that. And we may have time here to Twitter me. I think it's Patricia_Raskin. Mary, let's talk a little bit more about the vacation and why that's so important.
Sure.
This is not a frivolous thing.
Right.
You know, this is something that's really important for health, mental health.
Right. It's really interesting when you look into the studies, because they've done some studies in Europe, and it's kind of like a virus when we talk about vaccinations. We have what's called a community inoculation or a community immunity to a particular disease. And what they found in studying the Europeans that take these 5-week vacations, in fact, in Sweden, they're allowed to have 4 consecutive weeks during the summer, a vacation. Everybody gets 5 weeks. What they found is that there's a general sense of well-being because everybody's been out and relaxing. That really works in the United States when there is a plant shutdown. I know that in the automotive industry, there's a plant shutdown in July and also in Christmas time. Actually, in the United States, the Christmas break is really the only time that Americans take that time off and slow down, visit their family, visit friends, relax, have a cup of tea, have a cup of coffee, go to a party, obviously not overdo it, but they take that time to relax and they come back to work rejuvenated and refreshed and ready to hit the ground running.
I worked with a master teacher about a year ago, and his was her comment about when you're really stressed or you're really worried or you're really concerned. And at first I thought it was silly. She said, laugh more.
Mm-hmm.
She said, go out and really enjoy life.
Correct.
Because when you do that, you are creating that positive vibration and energy that attracts people to you.
Right. Well,
and I have found that to be true.
Actually, what happens is a physical reaction, Patricia, when you do that, okay? So there's a system in the body. It's the brain, which has millions and millions of neurons. The heart center actually does have a neuron center, and so does the gut, has 80 million neurons. And when you get out, relax, sit with friends, laugh, have a good time, those good hormones are released, the oxytocin, the serotonin, and not only do they circulate with that system, the 3 parts that I talked about, but also the brain then sends those hormones through every part of the body. So that's why you feel good. Because it's not just a positive vibe that comes from the universe. It's actually your body sending those signals out.
It's like endorphins.
The endorphins and all those other things, oxytocin, serotonin, they're very important for health and well-being. Mm-hmm. And that's what happens when we're overstressed and we spend time at our desks. And as you know, there's research about sitting. Sitting for 8 hours a day is just as dangerous as smoking a pack of cigarettes a day.
Well, also, when you're in that state of mind, your brain can't come up with those new creative ideas, right? It's more blocked. It's because you're feeling constricted.
Right. So the relaxation time, actually the meditation time or going to a yoga class, it actually allows the brain to become more creative, and you actually will think of ideas that maybe you had been struggling with. They'll come to you in that time that you have.
All right, we've got a couple minutes left. Give us an example of someone you worked with for whatever it was, 10 sessions, and where they were, just a snapshot, where they were when they came in and where they were when they left.
Yes, I have a client right now that when she first came in, she was very, very tense and very tight. Even the way she sat was her arms were always crossed, her legs were crossed. Her face was very pinched up. I hardly ever saw her smile. Mm. So I started to probe into some questions about what she was doing to take care of herself, right? And guess what? She wasn't doing anything to take care of herself. She was working, taking on extra work from other people. She was taking care of her house, her husband, her kids. She basically was acting as a machine. Mm. After about, I'd say we probably had about 6 or 7 sessions now, she's coming in, she's smiling more, and I commented on that. I said, you look so much more relaxed now. You actually have a smile on your face. What's different? And she said, well, I do a lot better in the summertime. So what we discovered was that she was sitting in an office without a window. And
That's
she
tough.
was a person that needed that vitamin D or the stimulation from the sun.
I think we all do, don't you?
Yes, absolutely. So here's the thing. I said to her, so is there an opportunity for you to get out of the winter for a period of time every year? And she said, well, yeah, my mom lives in Florida. And I was just amazed that she hadn't taken that opportunity, and she had put so many things in front of that. So we began to probe that. Well, is there an opportunity maybe for you now to sit down with your family and plan that week or 10 days? She said, yeah, I think I could do that. So that was progress. But if I had asked her that on the first session, she would have said, no, can't do it.
Right. And sometimes it's in front of your face, but you need that coach to really help you. It can make all the difference in
Right.
the world. Contact Mary. It's EncoreExecutiveCoaching.com.
Correct.
And that's the best way to get to you.
That's the best way to get to me. And also my phone number is 401-742-1965. And I would like to mention I'm going to be speaking at the North Kingstown Chamber of Commerce on July 19th at noon at their Lunch, Link, and Learn.
All right. And so if you're interested in that, contact Mary. You can
Right.
hear her in person and meet her in person as well. Thanks so much, Mary.
Oh, you're welcome, Patricia.
All right, thanks. This part of the program was brought to you by Encore Executive Coaching and Mary O'Sullivan.